Okay, for everyone who doesn't know me, my name is Jörg Rau. I'm heading up the Dynamics practice at Theta, and twice a year I do this webinar about what's new in Business Central. I hand select the things which I think you should know, which are maybe broadly usable, and also try them out for you and give you some comments on that. So this is a fast-paced demo video webinar if you haven't been here before. So I do this quite rapidly. If you do have any questions, please use the Q&A section for that. If you do have any comments about the webinar and what we should change, then put them please into the chat section. I will look at the Q&A section at the end and try to answer all those questions as well. We do make a recording of this, which we do put into YouTube and Vimeo, where you can see also the previous webinars, which are sometimes referred to as well. The 1.5 hours is always a challenge for me because there's always so much new, which I want to share with you guys. I might run over. Don't worry if you have a hard stop. We have the recording. You can watch it later. And I've been told some users also watch it a couple of times to follow through what I've done. So I follow a certain procedure when I go through the new release by looking at the release planner. I encourage you to do that as well, because you see in this release, when you filter on it, you will get 85 new features. 48 have been released so far. 27 are still coming. Remember, it's a wave, and a wave means that not everything gets released in April or respectively in October. It will be done through the time. If you are very keen on a feature, then you can look up the general availability of it in the release planner. If something is not available yet or for longer, I will tell you about that as well. As usual, the Dynamics team from Microsoft has a YouTube channel as well. Normally they do per release a playlist. This time they didn't. You can identify those videos by the banner 2026 release wave 1. It's quite a lot of videos to watch, which of course watch all for you, that I can make my selection and report back to you. So the next step I do after that is also looking into the feature management of version 27, which is the current version 2025 wave 2. Those are also the features which have been previously announced, which are talked about, and some of those become now mandatory. That means they will automatically be enabled in the next version. So when you upgrade now to 26 wave 1, then those are the ones which have been named as will be enabled. But when you look and then get the release, then only a few will actually make it. So that means calculate only visible flow fields will be switched on. And I want to highlight that one because we did had some issues with code across the board. So that means code assumed that a flow field is calculated, but now it gets only calculated when it's visible for performance reasons. So that means you can have a different behavior. So you cannot switch this off again in 28. You can still do that in 27 in the current version. So I encourage you to have it switched on and see if there's any problems. If there aren't any problems, then you're good to go. If there is problems, you can switch it off. You can report it back to us, your partner, and then we can just look at this and fix it. So that's quite important. So the other two is fine to do, which is enable the use of GL currency in the MCP server access, which I talked about last video. So how does the feature management of version 28 looks like? We have this on the features, and if you want to try out the features I'm reporting today, then you need to have those features being enabled in the tenant we want to play and test them out, which is the improved performance in trial balance and related Excel reports, and provide functionality on default values for financial reports, which I'm going to show you. We also have something which I want to cover today, is the ability to make your own custom agents. everything around Copilot and agents capabilities have their own page and need to be enabled. So as soon as you make it active, that is going to work. In this case, it is a Microsoft build type license required. That means you need to have your environment you're going to play with, or even production later, linked to a Power Platform environment, and that Power Platform environment has to be filled with some form of billing type for Microsoft Copilot credits, which is two ways. You can buy a whole block of it, or you can have a pay-as-you-go. All of that is also mentioned in my last video about the webinar of 25, wave 2. So let's dive into it. So we have the reporting and data analysis are going through the same topics as Microsoft groups them, not in the particular order of that. So, but I thought I'd start with the reporting side. We have the enhanced financial reporting features now. Well, we have seen previously enhanced financial reporting features for all the old NAV guys. Financial reporting used to call account schedules. It's now called financial reporting for a while. And we see almost every release now some more enhancements to it. So if you have not been following through again, it is worthwhile to look into previous videos where I explain them. So let's have a look in Business Central. So, and open up the financial reporting site. So you see all financial reporting schemas. But if you go now and change to the tiles, you will see you get more information now, which makes it easier to discover those reports for users, describing what it is, who was the last person who used it, some life cycle management in terms of status is there as well, like draft and active, retired. And so if you have a look on one of them, then I want to point out now the view by. It used to be always today. You see it's this year. But if I go out of that now and come back to it, because I activated now default, the default is used, and you see it's the months, so which is more convenient for users because you want to have mostly a month or whatever you want as a default. You can set this up in the general ledger setup. You have to scroll down, and then there's a default view by, and you can now set it to months, and there's also a company logo you can use when you print it, and the default status when you make new reports. So, okay, then let's have a look further on. You see the default settings was a year, and when I run this now, I can see also the audit logs. Who run this report, who PDF'd it, who Excel'd it with default settings of 30 days and 90 days of views and filters. So when you print this report now, you see this is just a normal printer. You got the logo now. I decided to do it on the left. But I want to point out again the dimension perspective, which I talked about last time. I don't think that a lot of people are using it yet. So dimension perspective is your own way to maybe go through and iterate the report through this dimension perspectives. In this case, you see I have used a dimension with dimension value large, medium, and small businesses. So it makes me a page for every value in the dimension perspective. So, and if you do this as an Excel sheet, it makes you a sheet per Excel per value. So let's have a look on this perspective. You can base it on analysis view. Then you have the dimensions from the view. In my case, a customer group I used. You can use custom, and in custom you can make your own value for what the combination of dimension values are. You can combine different values together and so forth. So let's have a look on the next feature on this is when you want to run this reports automatically, you can schedule them now. So you go to the account schedule, and if you want this weekly, in this case, I set up a weekly. If you have Excel templates, which I do encourage you, then you can define which users you have, and you can see when it should run, how often it should run, and you can even apply custom filters and settings of the options of the report. And then, of course, you need to have a date formula, say from and start date, about what it should actually entail. Right, to wrap up, so we have improved reporting in the financial reporting section about defaults, because I found it always annoying that you have to set it every single time. It does remember the settings if you do not use the defaults. You can channel the report now, and again, it's not new, but I do want to emphasize again that you can do your own Excel layouts and iterate through values with the dimension perspective. So the next block is about more a theme Microsoft choose to do around analyze customer loyalty in other sales scenarios. So we see other themes. I picked that up for now. So that means in the theme they wanted to add new reports in the Power BI sales report, which is the customer retention overview and the customer retention history. We have Excel layouts now with subtotals. You can see those ones which have been changed specifically for that theme. And also they thought about, hey, why can't we go on the sales order list page and use the analysis view? You can do this now. And that means you can make your own groupings about expected sales volume and customer sales and age accounts and so forth, just to name some examples. So let's have a look in how that looks like. So I went already in and refreshed all my Power BI reports. And if you go then and look for the sales side, you see when you scroll down the customer retention overview and the retention history. So you can call them, or you open the sales report, which contains all of the different tabs. And then the new ones will be at the end. You go scroll to the right, you see the customer retention overview, where it shows you the customer retention over time by location. You can choose the lost customer month range. Of course, my demo data doesn't give much to show. And the customer retention history here is the same about new and returning customers. And again, the ability to use the filter here, or the option to change the months to it. I think you get the idea from these reports. Now let's have a look on the report. So I've got an inventory customer sales report as an example to see. I use the Excel layout, which I do have provided now. And as soon as I download this report, I can see now that we have nice subtotals. So here it is. So subtotals in the report, and you see all the other reports have that. You see there is a print tab, and which is more the nice way to print, an analyze tab which has some slices, and there's even a hidden one for data. So if you really want to see what the data model is, you can make that and unhide that and build your own Excel layouts on top of that. Okay. So that was in the sales area. There is tons of more updated Power BI reports. I show you one more, which is in the inventory reporting. They have included now an ABC analysis. In order to make that work, you need to first go to the setup and of the Power BI setup and set your values, what you classify as an ABC item. You do that in the ABC analysis setup. And then you have to provide a percentage for category A, B, and C. And once you have done that, that will be then used in your Power BI report. And we want to go to the inventory report and look at that. And again, it's a full report, and we can go to the end of it because it's just been added to the end. And here we go, we got our ABC analyzer. I only have 18 items in my demo system here, but you can see the sales amount by class, sales amount by category, the sales amount by items, and the full table, which you can sort. And of course, if I do this in the classification, you can filter on A. I've got 1 in SA, and I have 6 in B, and you see you can sort them by sales volume as well. And then I've got 11 in C. So that helps you about what are the important items are you should keep on inventory. All right, so we move on to the next category, which is the applications. So in this one, I picked the document attachments. So document attachments are saved currently in the database. That means if you attach any kind of document to a purchase invoice or a customer vendor, then they will live in there. So that is a prime space, the database. So we don't want to populate that necessarily with files. So now we can have a setup where you can keep those attachments in an external storage system, such as SharePoint, Azure Blob Storage, or Azure File Share. So from a user's perspective, it doesn't make any difference. Your attachments are fully visible, available in Business Central. They just physically live somewhere else. So, and often when you go into your capacity section in the admin center and you look at the tables and sort them by size, you will often see that the attachments make most of the space in your database. So quite important, this is just the document attachments, don't to be confused with incoming document attachments, which is separate. And I made a screenshot on purpose here. And also, for example, I have the continuing expense management in this database. They have their own solution of moving those files out. And when it comes to document attachments, you might not see the table itself because it uses the 10 media where it stores actually this information and this data. But you will see later in that it has been built that other scenarios can be used in the future. So just the first thing is the documents attachments. So let's see how that works. So in Wheel, so in order to do that, you need to have an external file account. You need to determine first where you want to save these files. You can use the wizard, which is actually quite nice. You go next, you choose the type where you want it. In my case, I want to make it use of SharePoint. You do need to have an application registration. If you've never seen one, this is how it looks like in the portal.asia.com. You need to have global admin in order to set this up, because you need to have settings like this redirect URL and so forth, but more importantly, you have API permissions. And the API permissions need to be, depending on how you set it up, granted by an admin. So I did this quite widely, or should do this more narrowly, but now we have a SharePoint site which you have to provide. In this case, I call this is my site is called Demo NZ, and my documents live in this folder BC which I created. So this is where I want them to be stored. I have done this already. Let's have a look rather on how I prepared this. That means you can always go back to this external file accounts once you want to make a change. If you set everything correctly up with your URL and your folders and tenant and secret, then you can go back and test it by going to the storage browser. If you see those data files, then you know you made it. So if I look into the BC folder, you see there is actually one file, one folder. So this folder, I explained that now, that becomes part of the file scenarios. At the moment, there's only one available, but you can see it's more made so that you can do more. And this way I have set up, and I see this is the account environment number, and that is corresponding to that folder or C. So that means everything is from that assumed to that. So I did this already by moving it. So I'll show you how that works. That's what you do. It fails in my case because I've done it before. But you see here, when I go back now to SharePoint, I see my 8 files in this folder. So, and this is where they live. So what happens now if I want to create a completely different table? So let's add something to a customer record. So take the first record, go to the right, attachments, want to attach a new document to it, upload a file. So drag and drop one from my hard drive. So uploaded it. It appears here as normal, but actually it lives now in SharePoint. If I move over, refresh that site, then you see it's a customer folder, and now I see this file sitting there. And here we go. So that's how that works. So to ramp up again, the supported documents are just document attachments. It's not incoming documents, not pictures of items, customers, and so forth. I should mention that we can do now also pictures on item variants. So if that is something you are missing, you can do that now. And of course, third-party solutions like Continua and so forth have their own solution on how to save their external other files in external storage for a while already. So if you do not run out of capacity, well, there's nothing you have to do now. And you can leave them nicely in the database. If you do get to restrictions of your storage, then that's a good way to push those data out. So the next category is financial management. And this financial management, I picked 3 areas. One is called use self-built invoices. Enable an investment boost for fixed assets, probably most people waited for, and a complete new module about expense management and expense reporting. It will only come in October this year, but we will spend quite some time on this because it's quite comprehensive, and I do want you to understand what it can do in more detail. So let's have a look on the self-invoicing. We would call it more BCTI, or buyer-created tax invoices, in our part of the world. So what does it mean for BC? So let's have a look on the vendor and a vendor invoice, how it looks to date. So we have a vendor, we can look at posted invoices. And when I have an invoice and look at the invoice, then nothing special there. I just want to show you that this report I run for the invoice is this, and it will be different when we use the BCTI way. So because that's the invoice a vendor gave me. That means they give me also the vendor invoice number. So in the self-invoicing scenario, that's different. So we can go under show more invoicing, enable the self-billing agreement. And we do need to have a number series set up. That's something you have to do. Under payables. And here's a posted self-billing invoice number. I prepared already one. So we want to use this one. And now we can create an invoice, or let's do an order because it works for orders the same way. So make a purchase order, chuck in a line. Just quantity. And now I can see that when the invoice number is disabled, I cannot provide that invoice number. It's not even required anymore. I can now receive an invoice. And when I open this posted invoice now, I see the vendor invoice number came from my number series. And if I run this report, you'll see also that it picks up a completely different report layout, which I can influence. And I see I have my invoice number on the top. And if you've been use our AU and Z accelerator, you are really familiar with completely different layouts, nicer looking layouts. We do have a BCTI invoice layout as well in our app, which you should use for that. I wish there would be a number series per vendor. It is just a general one. That means it doesn't matter how many vendors you have in this, it will always pick from the same number series. And I think per vendor would be nicer because then you could define a series with your vendor and they know about that. Room for improvements. So demo for the fixed assets investment boost. So Microsoft does not call that this way because other countries have copied the idea and followed as well with different names. So Microsoft decided to call it a bonus depreciation. So since 22nd of May last year, we can have a 20% upfront deduction on new or new to New Zealand capital assets. So we haven't had a chance to do this, well, with some workarounds. Now we have a proper way of doing this in fixed assets. So let me just show you how that works. First, we need to go and do some setups. So we go into the fixed asset setup. And you do need to show more. And then you have this two fields here for the bonus depreciation percentage, which can be up to 20%. So if you want to make full use of it, and the 22nd of May is the date where assets become eligible for this bonus depreciation. So then, of course, we want to have a look on the fixed asset. And I prepared already one here, conveyor. And I did acquire it already. So we have depreciation start from 1st of May. So, and yeah, a book value, of course, but we have no depreciation yet. So if I do and activate this for this asset, I can still override the depreciation percentage. In this case, I go with that default from the setup. And now the next thing I do, I run for the very first time the depreciation of this asset for 31st of May, and give it a number. And posting description, and select my asset, just that one to show you. Okay, so once that is done, you'll see I see two journal entries, mainly one for a new type, which is called bonus depreciation, new FA posting type, and then a depreciation posting type as well. So if you do a preview posting, you can see that we have the general ledger entries and fixed asset ledger entries, and they all have this new posting type in there, which makes your reporting easier. So I did check also if they're posted different accounts, but it all goes to the same depreciation account, if that is your question as well. Yeah, and once I post it, I can go back to the fixed asset and see that I have the acquisition cost. I can see that I have a bonus depreciation here amount. And of course, I can drill down into the book value and see all my entries. And a last thing I want to show you is the fixed asset depreciation books, where we have also two new fields. Let me go there. So we have the bonus depreciation and bonus depreciation used, so which you can use to filter also to if you want to know which assets you actually have activated that for. So, big topic, expense management. It's a complete new module, and with the idea of AI first, and for the first time also an external portal, which we get. So it does capture expense reports, not just expenses, can be grouped in reports. We have the capturing of it with AI capabilities. And of course, the same concept as we often know, we post an expense report, and posted expense reports get the entries of an AI-driven workflow. And then, of course, we can also do reimbursement posting and also on-charge to customer and so forth. So what I want to show you first is the high-level architecture of what it is going to be in total once it is completely built. So it is that an expense user can submit the expenses. An expense user can be part of a team, which makes the approval a bit easier as well. The expense will be analyzed by a large language model with OCR functionality, but supports more than what typical OCR does, and I'll show you an example of that. So expenses can be grouped into expense reports, which often happens per week, per month. They can be sent to approval. You can have policies attached to it as a setup, which means it checks if the expense report is compliant or not as a pre-check. And once you posted it, you get all the entries into force. The credit card feed is not part of it now, it will not be part of the October release. So if that is something you do need to wait for, then you can use, of course, still expense management from Container. I do think, and you probably will agree once you see it, that is a strong contender to it. Yeah, let's dive into the setup a bit more so that we understand first how complex or comprehensive, I should say, it is, so that you can make up your mind if that is something you want to pursue. Okay. So in this case, I go to an expense, it's called agent setup. And I haven't enabled the agent yet. That means you can still use it without the agent, but you have to enter everything manually. You see there's tons of setups about if you want the receipt is mandatory, or if you need to have the merchant name and so forth. I'm not going through all of them now, but you need, of course, the number series, obviously, and you can standard rate for your kilometers or mileage, and if you do have a per diem calculation or not, and what type of per diem calculation you do have, and what does that mean actually when you have then certain eligible hours, and set them, and have you got any reductions when you have breakfast and so forth. We have expense users. Obviously, every expense user here has to be linked to an employee if you do want to reimburse them, because we use the normal employment journals to do that. So we can, I'll tell you more about this later. With the approvers, we have categories, and categories then at the end have setups as well. For example, what the expense details are required. Hotels need to be itemized by hotel room and breakfast, but you might have also entertainment where you need to name the participants or the per diem or per mileage. So if this is refundable or not. And of course, posting groups are important to set up as well, where it ends up. And if there's an attachment enforcement, that becomes important later. So I set this to warning, not error. So that means I can still continue. And we have different types of payments. If you look at them, there's basically the different types of the company paid for it already. You paid it with a company credit card, or you need to get reimbursed as an employee. So, and this is just the defaults of this category. Then categories can have subcategories as well, because when you need to itemize it, you do need to say, what is it? Is it a breakfast? Or if it's something which is actually not refundable, like you broke something in a hotel, or that means you need to specify that, but this is where the agent comes in, because it helps you grouping that. And then, of course, a lot of setups for accounts, debits and credits accounts, and also the employee posting group also has a new two accounts, the expense report, payables accounts, and the prepayment account. Okay, so now let's go into the expense rules next. So here we can define the different things. Let's say if you travel in certain countries, usually you get different per diem settings. UK is something specific. For example, if you're in the UK, you might get one value, but if you travel to London, you get another value. So you can set those things up as currencies, but you can also go and say if it's entertainment, you set up rules like, well, you need a justification if it's $500 and beyond, and you cannot spend more than $1,000 or get reimbursed for that. So those are the condition types you can set up per expense rules. Then enough of that. Let's go to expenses. Let's see how they look like. So if expenses come through the portal, then you can still see them here, and you can see the status if they've been submitted or not. Expense is per receipt, basically, or the line items you have. And so if you go to the next one, you see there's hotels now. You might just add the merchant name to it, like the Contoso Hotel, and you can define also, of course, the dates of stays. And you see now, this is the warning I talked about. It says an attachment is missing to it, and you can also have rule violations on the fact box. So if I look into this billing cycle, you can set up if you want to refund this, or see this is not refundable because it's been paid by a credit card. But if I change this to cash, you will see now it's a reimbursable amount. And you can also go and add this to a project expense. So that is your normal project management. We decide the project in the project task. And you can also just let's take it out so that I can continue. And also make it billable to a customer. So you choose it billable and customer, and it creates automatically a sales invoice for you too. Let's revert that. Okay, normal dimensions, and then you can release it, and you can move on to the next. So let's have a look on the mileage next. So it's automatically calculated based on the amount. And the next one is a per diem. I want to spend some time on if you have a start and end date. And you go and see this is all done in pounds, but it calculates automatically into your local currency. Then you can also check then the days. And if you had, for example, now reductions because you had a dinner, then you can actually say on which day that was, and the system then automatically deducts that dinner and, for example, here's a lunch. So, and you see the amount will then change, and the reimbursable amount changes with it. So if I want to go and have a look at expense reports, then expense reports can be used to group things together because you do not want, as an approver, maybe approve every single expense. You want to see this as a week or month or for a certain trip, so you can import them in the same way as you have seen probably in other ways of Business Central. So, and it also brings them all in and tells you then what the amount is, the dimensions, and all of that is things you can provide. So, okay, in this case here I have two lines with credit cards, and therefore I have the reimbursable amount is lesser than the total. I can now post this if I have no rule violations. If there would be rule violations, I cannot post this expense report. In this case, there isn't any, so I can do it. And let's have a look on this report as well. So those are the three lines which came over. And now I can also see what the entries are it produces for this document. So you see the normal employee ledgers which we used before. You can start fresh with a report and then add reports to it. Let's do that, but I want to show you more the rule violations. For example, for airlines, a receipt is required. And you can choose a different currency. Let's use Danish crowns now, and an amount. And it calculates automatically again to your local currency. And then let's use a different category, like a car. And also hotel. And you see the itemization only shows up when it's hotels because it's not required for cars. Yeah. And it doesn't let me continue until I have itemized it. All right. Okay, so let's move on to the agent side of things. Now we've seen how comprehensive it is in the BC side. So this is the plan of what they want to do in the expense agents capabilities. So the idea is that you take pictures of your receipts and you can scan them with an app as well. And you can forward them if you want to, alternatively, to an email or shared mailbox account. That means either you do everything in the app, or you take all your pictures because you're sitting in the plane and send it via email, and the email gets then sent once you have connectivity again. So the agent is then taking this information, scans the business email, extracts the information, does make the categorization for you. So it can also collect and expenses together into a report, which is usually you want to do this by a trip, and adds the dimension based on your historical patterns. So checks the missing data and goes into a chat, basically backwards and forwards to tell you until things are done. So it makes duplication and fraud detection as well. And then once it has been collected, so we can then continue off helping with the mileage calculation. So I haven't seen that yet in action. So something that you see, not everything you see here is what they have already shown in the product to date. So there's more to come, but you see that is the plan they want to do. So, and after we have itemized and subcategorized all the expenses, then the expense reports can be checked against rules again. So you see every time you see the Business Central logo in there, this is where the human comes into play to release and complete the report and send them then to approval. The approval will be going through validations again and checks them and points out in clear text what actually the violation is all about for the approver. And then the approval can actually happen then, and you can get reimbursed. So the way the outside side works from Business Central now, the new thing I mentioned in terms of what we go and get a fresh portal, is the thing I want to show you on the Expense Web app, and also with some screenshots on the mail account. But the idea is also to put this expense agent into the Microsoft 365 Copilot chat, and more to this at the very end. So, okay, so you will have on your phone an email, you make an email and you send just a report to the mail account, and you attach your file of files to it and send it through. So the agent will go and then create this as a report and will tell you when it's ready and being processed, and if things are fine or not. You see the compliant marker as well. And then you have a link to go to the reviewer experience report. So, this is how it then looks like in the response portal. So, and then you can just look up and see it's categorized everything already for you. So the expenses are sent, and all what I have to do is just then can review this again if the AI did a good job of it, and continue. So I'll show you this more from scratch in the portal now. So if I log in now and have nothing from scratch, so you see, then I can upload my receipts as well. So if I want to prefer to work in the portal, so the agent is taking this receipt, extracting the details out of it, and once it's become available, I can review it. So here it is. So it did categorize it as a hotel expense automatically. So, and then of course I can review it. I can maximize my file here and can review this. So, and it's already in a different currency. I can see the categorization worked, and also the itemization worked automatically. So what is room, what is breakfast, did also work without me doing anything. So now I can go, and if I want to put some more information in, I can do edit it as well. For example, I want to put in a note in there. So this was for a customer meeting. Save my changes, and the end, I just want to go and maybe add more expenses to it. So when I do this, I can, I don't have to do one file, I can do many files. I can do even a complete folder and select that, and everything in that folder will be used to be uploaded. And of course, I can do other things while the agent is busy looking at my receipts. So once I got it, I have maybe a special case here, a handwritten note, which would be really terrible for the normal OCR to interpret. But you see the AI can do a better job of this, and therefore it recognizes that it's a 2,450, whatever that currency is in Yugoslavia or Croatia. Okay, and we have now the summary of this, of a non-compliant things. They say per diem details are missing. So I have to go to the categorization here. I can have a look first what it actually was. I did some travel there, and because I traveled, I also have a day or per diem. I need to specify a location, and so as soon as I have this location specified, I just choose UK for this sake here, save and continue. You will see that this will become now compliant, and I can just go see all my expenses, which are grouped by months. But I can also go and add expenses to ones. For example, I want to add another receipt to January, then I can do that. Let me take this taxi here. And I just add this to the same month's report. And of course, I can go now and submit all those reports. Okay. Now, from an approval point of view, it's also important that the person who wants to submit the expenses and the approver don't have to be in Business Central. They can all work from the portal. I will show you a license slide later about what that means about the person who raises the expense, the approver, and the person who has to post the expense. So everything is in a new, fresh, modern UI. And yeah, the best thing is, of course, have a look at that in action. So I want to show you the flow again. So we submit the expenses. The AI model is working on this. We get this to submit. We review this. So then the approver has the ability first to get a notification as an email or in Copilot or in the web app that there is anything to approve. And then you can review this. You can also reject and send it back to an expense user with your comments. Okay, so now I'm in as an approved submitter. So Enrico is the guy who just says, okay, I go and have some draft expenses I want to submit. So, and I want to review the second one and submit it. So, and that means once I've submitted them, I cannot change them anymore. So they're here now for me to review, but I cannot make any changes. Right, now let's move on to the approver. So if I log in now as an approver, so this is now Blasi, the approver. So of course, he can have his own expense reports and drafts because he has expenses and someone else has to approve it. But we want to more looking at those 5 approvals here, and which he has to review. So that means he can see the complete data again. He sees who submitted it and for which month it is. He can have a look on the expenses, review the document and the content. He sees already that it has been compliant, so he can approve it. You see that, and the next example is maybe we want to do and review something and reject it. So let's have a look on this one and we say, okay, you give me, although it's compliant, I don't like that you give everything to me separately. I want you to summarize it into one expense report. So I send it back, add my comment and say, please include all expenses for the trip in the same report. Send back. And you go on the top right, you can see expense report sent back. So now let's have a look on the approval setup. So we switch screen to BC, expense users, where we have been before. Now we can see that Blasi was an approver. How does that look like when we open him up? So he can approve, it's a tick box, and then you can see he can approve for these expense users there, for Enrico and Joe. And if you go to another user, take maybe Robin here, she cannot approve, and therefore there isn't anyone in the list. But if you would activate this, you see, then I can maintain the expense users. I can have a bit better structured approach by using teams. And then I can say somebody is the team manager, and therefore everyone in this team then becomes automatically a part of the approvers. So users or teams, both are possible. Okay, let's have a look on the licensing. So in order to enable the sending a report out, an expense claim a user, you do not have to have a license at all. So how does Microsoft make their money? Well, you use the agent, and the agent will use Copilot credits to interpret the images you sent. So therefore, that is where you don't need to have a license. And I sense a bit also that this is the way the future Business Central will go, where maybe user license become less interesting and Copilot credits becomes now the new currency for everything to use. So, but if you do have to approve it, it doesn't matter if you approve in the expense portal or in Business Central, you do need to have a team member license at least. And if you post the expense, of course, if you're posting to the GL, you need to have a full user license for that. So a different license model than, for example, we see with Continia. Right, talking agents, this is also a big topic. And I see already chasing my time here. So agents. So we have the ability now, so far we could only use provided agents by Microsoft. So namely, there was the sales order agent and the payable agents, which you could use. We could not change them. We could make use of them or not. So, but now we can create our custom agents. So in order to create a custom agents, you have to do the creation in the sandbox. So, and once you have done the sandbox and you're happy with how it works, then we need to do the plumbing around it to deploy it. You can see the main target audience for this is actually not end customers, although you can do this and we can do the plumbing around it to make a mini app and deploy it. It is more for partners and ISVs, app vendors, to go and test those apps out, combine them into their apps and deploy them together with their apps and make them part of their product. However, it is possible to go and see if things have any legs and the potential to become a good agent. So what do you need for an agent? So I thought, okay, I make an example of something I see very often, a purchase order housekeeping agent. So where we have old purchase orders, which have been maybe partially received an invoice, but we're still waiting for the rest. Well, if they're a year old, we probably don't wait for this anymore, but no one bothers to clean it up necessarily, or it's a work people don't like to do. So that is something maybe an agent could do the work for me. So what is an agent? Well, think about an agent as a user. If you have a new user coming, you decide what kind of role center you should have. That means what is it what I want you to see in terms of data and actions, things you can click on, what permissions you should get to do your work. And then I need to give you instructions as a user and telling you what to do when you start on Monday and do work for me. So the benefit of an agent is it's not just one person starting. You can have 1,000 instances of the same thing. So therefore, it makes sense to use an agent where you need to scale a process. I'll tell you already up front, it looks easy, but making it work in the way you want to do needs work and time. So therefore, you really don't want to start this for something you do really rarely. You don't really see scalability on this. So, okay, let's have a look how I did it and what you can achieve if you don't put, let's say, a reasonable amount of time in there. But what I want to do is I do want to create this agent now for purchase orders and see if it works. So I'm in a go first and decide on my role center. You see, Microsoft used specific role centers for the payable agents and the core sales order agents. So that is specific. And that means you do want to unclutter those role centers. So I want to use the inventory manager, but you will see inventory manager has a lot of actions, a lot of menus, a lot of data. That is not actually a good way of doing it. So, but let's see where we get with this, because the more you add, the more you confuse also the model. So I've got here 2 outstanding purchase orders. And if I look at the first one there, so I have a quantity 1, I have a quantity 2 receive. Let's say the first one is received an invoice, the second one is not. So, well, that is a candidate. And the next one here is I ordered 10, but I received 9. And this is from over a year ago. Well, that's not going to happen, right? So that means I could actually delete those orders. So now that's what I want an agent to do. So I create a new agent, and you see it's relatively simple, from scratch, and give it a name. So this is my PO cleanup agent. Give it a description, and then I just have to do the 3 ingredients, which is what profile do I want it to give, which role. I do use the inventory manager, but ideally I have a cut-down version of it. I have to provide permissions. You want to be very careful on this as well, what permissions you give. So, of course, you need some basic permissions to log in. So it is another user who does the work for you. So, and then you choose all the other permissions you need for this to happen. Like, I don't know, create inventory docs. And so I just choose something, but I also choose super, which you, of course, for my demo purposes are being sufficient that I can actually do everything and anything. Okay, now I've done that. So the next one is I need to give instructions. So I need to write text about what it wants you to do. You can start with small, but here's also some guidelines for Microsoft when you look at the download instructions page, what to do. So like a do not in capital, you can say, look, open this. I want you to perform the action of delete invoiced orders, which is an action on the purchase order list. And I want you to go through older than 6 months only invoices. And there's some if and then terminology you can use as well to instruct the agent. So I've done this now, I've created it. So how do I test it now? So in the sandbox, you see this is the instructions again. What I want you to do, I need to run a task. And the task can be simulating some instructions, which I might get via an email. You see also I can do attachments. In this case, I send one with today's working date. Because I'm in a demo, it's a bit different because, the demo license allows you only to work in certain date ranges. So no interpretation of date formats, right? And I want you to run. So as soon as I make a task, then this kicks off the agent. So I can have a look on all the tasks I have. I can look at the side pane where my agent is running. I can close it. I can come back to it. So let's say if I go all the way back, you see I have another agent sitting there, and I can see what it actually do and open the pen. I see that it's running now. And I can also see and debug basically the steps of it. So I want to really see what is this agent doing? Did I give good instructions? Does the agent do what I actually wanted to do? So again, on agents, I can see my agents, and then we want to look at the tasks basically. So, and here we go, we got some messages kicked off. I'm going to press the refresh button later again, then you will see it will do more things. So it invokes a function here of delete invoice orders. What did it see to do this? This is the data it saw at that moment, which helps you also to troubleshoot. Does it have enough information or takes the wrong things? Do I need to take a field out or field in? What are the actions and tools it can use? So, and what messages I have provided to it to run with this one. And this is the initial one I gave it, but it could also be the email if that is the trigger. So I'll refresh further, and we see it is now actively looking at some orders, order number. So it did run this one, and invoke OK, and then it goes further what it needs to do, and explains that as well, which is good. So, and when we go through, then it applied a filter to 20th of August, which means, yeah, I want you to go back in time. Then it selected orders, it selected this order, it looked at the lines, and so forth, and I want to do work on this. So let's just go through some of the messages as well, and then we have a look on what is actually did. So I can tell only by the numbers. That's not the orders I had look at. So maybe it's still working on it. Let's refresh it. Yeah, it has more orders to do. So, and you might think, oh God, this is too much orders. I just did something wrong here. I did all orders in the system. That could be costly because the more it runs, the more it will use credits. And we look at that later. So what I might have to do is I have to refine things. I have to say, okay, that wasn't good. So I go back and first of all, have a look on what did it cost me to do, consumption data. So this run cost me 58 credits, which means 58 US cents. So let's say $1 Kiwi to run for this. So if I want to optimize it, let's say, and be more specific or have lesser orders. Let's see, in this case, it goes through all the other orders, but I wanted to go through 2 orders only. So I might have not done the right filter. So for example, I haven't done and say, look only on released orders. So let's correct that. And we go back to it, and you can see this is, I'll do this on purpose so that you see and understand the work you have to put in there to think about the instructions you give, but it's no code. So what you do is now you give the next instruction, open the outstanding purchase orders list. Well, hope it did this, apply a filter of status equal released. So now hopefully that does the trick now, and it only looks on my 2 orders I'm actually interested in. So then you say, okay, you have version control of this. You have all the versions of your instruction as well. We need to run another task. We have to enter a task again. You see, this is only in the sandbox that it works like that for testing. Right? So the triggers when you deploy to production work differently, and I'll show you that in the next scenario. So let's have a look what happened now if it do a better job. So you run this one. Again, see the messages now. We should have message number 2. So let's go back to, well, we can actually have this in parallel. We go to open those and see if something happened here. And at the same time, we look at the task. It is not the fastest way, all right? So I could also say, look, if you want this kind of things done, we could write a program to do this. It's more deterministic than actually an agent. So because you do know what you need to do on a program and you can test it. But anyway, this is the no-code way of doing it. And I think there's better scenarios where AI is better suited for. So, but okay, let's have a look what happened here. So it had more orders. So, and getting to the orders I want. So there's more released orders. We see cannot find it, but here 34. And if I go a bit back, you see applied the filter and then removed 1 row, and the purchase order has line, blah, blah, blah. So it can be deleted as per the guidelines. Awesome. All right. And now it did what it needed to do. Okay, let's have a look rather on a deployed agent. So that means I have done testing and everything. I package it up, and my triggers could be an action I want to invoke from the page. It can be an email mailbox I'm listening to. So in this case, I have a scenario where I just want to go through sales orders and want to check if the quantity has been reserved with inventory I have, and also check what the shipping advice from the customer is, if they're happy to have a partial shipment or full. If this both are fulfilled, I release the order to the warehouse. So that's my use case here. So, okay, that means I have deployed this agent already. I'm in sales orders. I have a lot of orders to do. So what is it what I want to do? I want to go on an order and check the order out. So in this case, I have a quantity of 12. So the shipping advice date is 19. So I want to do this only for a certain shipment date. So advice is partial, quantity 12, reserve 12. So perfect. So I have enough quantity, and I see the product, and I can release it if I want to do this. But so then I go to the next order and do the same again. So quantity 10, but only 7 reserved. All right. So you have to check again. Shipping advice is partial, 19th of May. First, okay, that couldn't work. That can release, and so on and so on and so on. It's the third one I've prepared. So it's again full reserved. So if that is the kind of thing you, let's say, would have, then of course it makes sense to go through and have help. And here is an action. I say, look, validate with an agent. That's my action I have done. So, and it pops up and says, for which date do you want to do this? Well, only for the 19th. Don't bother with any other order. And now I go through and again creates a task. And and I let the agent do what it needs to do, and it will come back to me and tell me when it needs me. So in this case, you see it's running, but you see also with this little icon here, it wants something from me. I want to review. So I asked it to always come back and say run and confirm what the shipment date is. And also then at the end, I want you to come back and give me a report of what you have done. So that's the instructions I gave it in the agent. You see, I can work, do something else, come back, see there's a message, and now I can go look at this. And now it tells me now in the review that all open sales orders with the shipment date of 19th have been reviewed. Those 3 orders were released. The other orders, there's nothing released. So fine. Here my report. Now I can actually have a look on my sales orders. I can see, did that happen here? The 3 orders I did before, they're all released and they work. Okay, so now I wanted to put this now in the third scenario, what I call the stress test. I said, okay, well, these are all automations, but it didn't need necessarily AI because this is something a program could check for me. But what happens if I need something really where AI makes sense? So I have, or maybe I want to create items from a website. I want to just say, here's a URL or a website where I have on the shop certain items. Just go and grab them with everything: item description, unit of measure, marketing text, images. Let's see if that works. So again, I go in a sandbox to play out and make a quick one. So in this case, just have to do the same thing again quickly. So important is a website. I wanted to test, can it go out and find something for me? And can it then take this information out? So, and this is the kind of thing I encourage you to just to try, be crazy and to see how far you get. So as I said before, does it have any legs to automate? Is it something I do very often? Is at a scale? Does it save me a lot of time? Because it does need a decent amount of time to test them and make sure they all work. So again, basic, super, same as before. So, okay, chuck in some instructions. So see, I did a bit more. And I asked it to do retrieve all the items, give description, measure, use the price as a cost price to me. I can choose now, since 28.1 a model. We see Microsoft is still using a 4.1 model because it has less reasoning, which means for their testing it was better. So, but that could be in the way for me now. So, and yeah, I have to do and run the task again. So we have been there before. I think after all the scenarios, you know now how it really works. So I want to get some vendors from this website. So, and here's the URL, go and find the first 10 and do something for me. So, and then a bit fast forward now, I tested it, so you can see here, I've got my logs entry. You see, it asked me, give me the website URL, which I did provide. I tried many times, it did not work. So what I did then is, okay, why don't we do this the other way around? I print this website as a PDF and attach this and upload this. I'll show you that as well. So what happens if I have a file now? It could be any file. Hopefully that works better. So I say, take the first items and run with it. So, and now it's again a task, and then I can watch it with the agent steps. It's running here. So let's have a look on the details, agent tasks. And for this one, the log entries, I'll refresh it. So, and it navigates to the item screens, invokes an item new, want to do a new item, that's good. So puts in the description, the CTEC high quality filter piece, yes, it's good. So, and updates the unit costs, the GC posting group, the search description. Okay, what else? inventory posting group, sales unit measure, purchase unit measure, all good. I didn't tell them invoke the item marketing text. Let's see if that works. Refresh again, sir. And yes, it runs and it makes me a text. Keep your board safe with those long fenders in blue. Awesome. So now, okay, let's have a look on that. And if I look at this now, you see there's also the question when who created all this stuff now? Was it a user or was it an agent? You see there is new avatars now you can switch on, and you can see that this item was well created by system, changed by me, but if you see this new fender here, was created by the agent. So you have a way now to determine which data was created and updated by whom, and you see also with a little eye icon that there is things to review, and those fields have actually been updated by the agent and not by a normal user, and that allows you to review those information. So the good thing is it created this item with quite a lot of things, but it only created that one item. So and not more. So there is a way to say loop and go through this, and I could refine this a bit. But I thought, okay, it needs probably more tools because I'm more interested in this website thing and how do I achieve that. So I do want to just capture MCP again in a combination of the Theta Assist product we have as well to show you what you can do when you use a tool set and not just one thing. So yes, in my case, I have an agent or an assistant, as we call them, Theta Assist, which can do certain things. So maybe let's have a look first how Theta Assist works if you haven't seen it yet. So same way, I have a PDF first, take this file and say, create me a customer and tell me of those items the customer asked for is an inventory. So I've got this in parallel, it might be a bit small. So on the left side, we see Theta Assist, and I have different agents for different purposes, which I can define different tool sets for and prompts and what I wanted to do. So I can ask what is Theta Assist, and because I asked this in a BC assistant, it will tell me more about what it's about. That's an internal assistance for business operations with a strong focus on Business Central and Outlook email, because I did that and integrated it as well. Okay, so now it is a normal chat interface to start with, but I can now also do more things with it. So I can, for example, have a look first if we have this customer. So we have this worldwide. I know that's the one I have in the PDF. So I basically now chuck in a file, a normal purchase order from a customer or any document we get, and say I received this attached document, please check if the customer exists, and if not, create a new customer, then list all items with current inventory. So what does mean now, it's although I have a completely different AI client here, I can use MCP and MCP server to connect to Business Central, and I can define what type of tools I want this client to have so that it can only maybe look at customers and items and not at journal entries, for example. So in this case, it says, look, yeah, I could get this information, but I can't create it now because I'm not authenticated. So that's important. So I log in now with my user. So it is my user who does it with my permissions on top of the permissions I give to the MCP server. So I can say, I'm connected now. Please try it again. So, and now I can check and do its bits and pieces. So, and understands automatically the tools I give it to list first customer, create a customer. So it says it did one is called white world, not worldwide. So it did not exist, and now created it with customer number 250. So let's have a look on wild world. Yeah, customer number 250 has been created, and I have the phone number, the address, and everything else being created for me. And it also said, look, the quantity on the purchase orders were those, and the current inventory is that. So if I scroll down to the London filter, yes, 3, and I wanted 20, and the Athens mobile bid is 5. So that means it helped me to do those kind of things. So now when I go to this more complex scenario again, where I have this URL, so I want to see what happens now. So, and that is just, again, I can also, instead of attaching a file, a URL in my Theta assistant, submit this, so, and give some context to what I wanted to do. So the more context I give, the better, obviously. So take the first items from this website. So I'm just saying what it has to do. Get them as items. BC, it doesn't understand what BC is, and not business central. Use pieces as unit of measure. I need to talk about the unit cost as well. The price is the unit cost. Yeah, super good. If you could take the item, the images of the items and add them as pictures. Right, enough? Yeah. Okay, submit that. And now, because the toolset of this assistant is different, because I give it a web scratcher, I give the MCP tool to PC, so it can do more things now and coordinate. And of course, this is a generic assistant. If I would just specify it more for this purpose and prompt it more and build a knowledge base, I could achieve even far better results. So, and of course, what you will find out, it can create those items, but you saw it, I'm running into a scenario here. This item already exists, the long fender blue. So I cannot add item pictures. I don't have the tool sets to do that. So it means it needs to have an API where it can do that. So, okay, now it retrieved the first 5 items from the website and gave me all the information. So I now say, okay, I only create those items which don't exist yet. So, and it goes and off and does its work. So as normal, you probably would just do something else in the meantime. You get notification that there's something happening. So here in this case, one already existed, created 4 more items, used pieces, unit costs, and so forth, and told me that I couldn't add the product images because it doesn't have the toolset. So if I refresh this page now, I see now that those items have been created as me as a user because I'm the authenticated user in there. So, and I can see all my items now being created with my unit cost and my unit of measures and so forth. So the marketing text I did before, I did give not instructions to it, but it also needs to have those kind of bind actions in the API. So it needs to be exposed as an API in order to use it. All right, a lot of agent stuff. So now let's go to the next category, which is supply chain management. And I think the most finance users will be just super happy now when I see the next one. I'm not sure why they put this in supply chain management, which is use date formulas to control allowed posting periods. Okay, what is the problem? So, you might have a person comes early in the morning and wants to do a stock take and finds 2 of these awesome blue vendors and wants to just make a stock adjustments and post them. And get the following error. The posting date is not within your range. Yeah, it's the first of the month or whatever, something happened. So a finance person needs to go to the general ledger setup and allow the posting date because it hasn't been posted yet. So now what we can do now, instead of doing this, we can go and say with show more at rather date formulas. So therefore we could go and make it dynamic and say, okay, I want to go always from minus CM, should be minus CM plus 1. I'm just lazy now, go 1 month back to the end of the month, so the current month is always open. Now I can post my journal because now I've fit in there. So I see often that the user setup has been misused to do this. As well, the user setup is only for the exceptions of the general ledger setup. So therefore, But if you do want to make exceptions, then you can do that too. What you need to do here is you need to personalize your screen. Those fields are not visible right away, so you have to add those fields to your screen. So the allow posting from date formula and the allow posting to date formula. So I just do that. Okay, and then we just say Frankie. Frankie can do always the last 30 days to today, COD. Jörg follows what is on the general ledger setup, and me, he can only do today, 0 day, 0 day. So everything only that. And whatever is today, that will work for her. So, and here we go. Now we have specified the date formulas and have dynamic posting and don't have to do that anymore. So yeah, of course you can choose now if you like it or not. Okay, Microsoft went shopping again, and expense management was something they did from scratch themselves, but quality management and subcontractor work for production is two apps they bought or licensed from an ISV. In this case, Insight Works from Canada, where we partner off. So if you have already worked with this tool, then they're very familiar to you, and no surprise. But there will be, of course, Microsoft-nized them. That means they changed in a different number range and maybe make changes to that. So the subcontractor work for production was announced. Both of them were announced last wave, has been postponed to this wave. Quality management is now available. Subcontractor work is not available yet. So as it is very specific and probably not for all of you, I focused on the quality management now. So quality management, let's have a look first how we do this in action. So if I have a purchase order, for example, this is a sample workflow I built now, and I have an existing purchase order where I buy some coffee beans. I want to receive them, and I process, receive the invoice. You will see that I get now automatically a quality inspection being created because that's how I set it up. And then I can open the inspection because I said, look, you have an item in here which is also lot tracked or serial number tracked, where you do need to make some tests for this and tell me more about it when you receive it. So you see item number, and there's the lot number, and so now I have to go down and excuse me, do the inspection results. So what are the questions being asked for this particular test, for this particular item at this particular time, is to check the packaging visual, so I can put all my things in my test value column. So I get a pass description. So if I choose something else than that, then it is a fail. So in this case, it is undamaged. So and I can choose then from a list of things. I can choose from a yes/no scenario. Was the label correct? I'm going to say yes. I can select again from a list. If there's any, in my case, there is an issue with colors, so let's have that fail. So say the color of the beans is kind of weird. So therefore, I do choose that. And then, yeah, color being uniform, please. Uniform or mixed, okay. Yeah, mixed is still a pass. And then we have most of the content is, let's put in 11 because the range is from 10 to 12. So, and I could have another one which is just additional comments in there, which you can choose, and which is just a free text, large text I can enter, and also can add extra notes to each of the tests I'm doing if I want to specify any kind of further notes to it. So this one failed now. So, and I want to add a picture to that as well because it failed. So I want to just make sure that I have documented the weird color of my beans. So I'll just go and add a picture. I can take a picture, have it on a tablet. I would use that. In my case, I have it on my computer, so I'll make an import and choose a file. So, okay, and now I have my beans in here and I can document that with that. So the next step would be then to finish the quality inspection. So what you see, what happens as well is that it will automatically do, because it failed, make a transfer order for me, because that's the way I set it up. So, and move those certain items over. In this case, a normal transfer order, as you know it, this item was moved, but you see the quantity is 3. So why it's the quantity 3 and move it from main to east is, so if you go back to the, first I'll show you the item tracking lines as well. It's the lot 25 which we had ticked it automatically, because that's the lot we have inspected. And see on the show more, I can see that there is actually a sample size. So I can determine also what size I need to have. And this is the 3 I want to move over. Right, so let's go on to the sales order and see what happens if I have, because I receipted those items. Can I now go and ship them? So I have a datum, wants to have some coffee beans. So then I want 10 packs of them. And I do want to go in and choose the item tracking. So I do have, when I get my lot number 25, I want to ship it. So you see, it does not allow me to do that because there is a quality inspection failed. So therefore I cannot go and sell those items or that lot number. So that means I want to make a retest now of the maybe the other samples. I have 22 left, which I could still test. Maybe there was only something wrong with the 3 I sampled. So go back to the inspection and create a re-inspection. So, and sample size 22 now, because I want to test the rest of it, because it's urgent, the customer wants it. Let's do that again and retest and put in the values through, as we know already. Okay. Uniform this time. And 11 again. This is blank, so it's a pass. And I can finish my order. Yeah. Yeah, I want to do that, finish that off. Now our test result is the pass. I can run reports now as well. We have 3 different reports, so you can choose different layouts for them and make your own if you want to. So certificate of analysis shows you the test results in there, and also the product and the lot number and everything which is entered, and also the and here we've got a non-conformance report. So you can also make your own layouts. Just to show you that. And here's different information been entered. Well, I'm in this demo system, I'm the administrator. That's what it shows. That this way, you see, that's me. That's why the weird name is. And the dates. All right. Now we can do that. I can go back to my sales order and I should be able to post it. Good. So if you do want to test this or an existing sales boxes, it is actually something you have to install and app and you have to change the role center to quality, I recommend you to do that, because then you see this checklist here of you can add demo data and so forth, and go through this checklist and basically help to get started in there. So that means for all new tenants we start today, it will be enabled, both for existing ones. So you need to go and basically download it from AppSource, the Microsoft version of quality. All right, so we are up in time, but I keep on going. As I said, we have recording. I'm not too far off. So I do want to show you the purchase quote with a contact. It's my last demo actually. So that is something new. So I need a contact to do a vendor to when you want to get to a vendor. But of course, I use Theta Assist now to help me. I like to do purchase inquiry with Theta. Here's a website. Somewhere there's information. Do create a contact. Do not create them as a customer vendor, because why should I bother to type in everything else? Because information is already there somewhere in the world. So go and fetch it and create me a contact. So I found the contact from the website and the address and everything, and created a contact for me. So, okay, it says done. Awesome. Let's have a look then on the left to BC. So refresh the site. We see now Theta has been created. I have a new contact. I have my address in there, my email, which is important for me because I need to send a quote. And now I can create a purchase quote directly from here. I do not have to create a vendor first, so I can make an inquiry right away from here. I can chuck in whatever I want to ask and send this off as an email. If I do create this as an order, quote to order, it will also ask me then to make a vendor automatically. So that is the last demo of today. I do have some other areas I just quickly want to cover, another 5 minutes. So we have been on the Directions Asia, which is a partner-driven conference, first time where we have been also as advertising our apps now. So Craig and I were in Ho Chi Minh City. So main reason of the conference is, of course, to meet the Microsoft team and had the honor to talk to the product team there directly and to the vice president of Business Central. So and of course we want to have more resellers as we already have, and do want to advertise for that bit. We have doubled our apps in AppSource now. We moved from 11 to 22. So interesting was the most common question was about advanced landed cost, our app, because everyone feels the cost pressure these days. So therefore, that was the most asked questions we had and things around this. So if you're not familiar with that, maybe have a look on the marketplace, look for Theta Systems, look at our apps, or talk to us directly if you want to know more about it. So the roadmap, sorry for the bad image I get. This is all from the conference taken. Of course, agents is agents. No surprise, but a lot of AI system development for us, which is in the making. So where we go more from even normal coding, even away from wipe coding to agentic workflow coding. So there's a lot of that. And of course, the top ideas in the ideas.microsoft.com website will still be used. So I advertise this every time in my webinar. Go to this website. If you have an idea, search for it maybe first to see if someone else had the same idea. Vote for it. The ones with the highest votes will get those features. Some of the features are shown here today were born by you guys putting something on the website and had other people voting for it. So a few pictures of the future, how BC might look like in the future. So we know we have the normal Copilot panel, our specific pen and the site from Microsoft, from BC. So Microsoft is want to use the normal Copilot, so the Microsoft 365 Copilot in there. And here's an example where it says, list me items from Business Central, and you can stay in your normal Copilot there, and it's connected up to BC. It gives you the item numbers. Okay, you have that same, but another example is, please make that in an Excel file. Well, that's something you can't do in BC at the moment. So it will do that as well, or make me a bar chart of the data you just grabbed. and yeah, on those kind of things. So that's the future of how BC where it goes. Now we're going to questions. I do not sure if there's any. Go in the Q&A questions if there's any questions yet, or in the chat. Amy, you can please guide me if there's anything I have not seen. There's a question about the video. Yes, you all get a link directly, but there's also then on the website from the Vimeo and YouTube channels from Theta, where you can see all the existing webinars. Right. If there is no any other questions yet, then I thank you for your patience that I'm 6 minutes over, and see you in 6 months. Thank you.